Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. It is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloe. It's a big political day in Nigeria, a day that most politicians will never forget. Adrenaline was pumping. In fact, a lot of people who were suffering from very severe heart issues might not be able to withstand what the heat were. Courtroom was, in fact, very clement. The weather in the courtroom was very good. But, well, some people would have felt a weather different from what was felt outside, on the inside of them. But, well, the 8th governorship election matters were decided today, and we'll be dissecting for you big reflections, some of the biggest stories out of the 8th. We said number 1, Plateau State, followed by Kano State. These cases are very significant, and I will make you understand tonight on the program. First and foremost, let's tell you that President Bola Tinubu has suspended all administered programs by the National Socio Investment Program Agency, the NSIPA. The presidency says that in a statement today released that the president's decision was in view of the ongoing investigation of alleged malfeasance in the management of the agency and its programs. The 4 programs administered by the NSIPA include the Empower Program, the Conditional Cash Transfer Program, the Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program, and the Homegrown School Feeding Program. The programs have been suspended for a period of 6 weeks in the initial stage. The statement also states that the President Bola Tinubu has also raised significant concerns regarding operational lapses and improprieties surrounding payments to the program beneficiaries. Tonight, we'll be dissecting the issues for you as much as you need to know. We'll bring you all the pictures, all the details, the reactions, the details that happen in the courtroom and outside of the courtroom. We'll also bring you right in the front seat of the reactions coming from the major player tonight. Perhaps the biggest story from the courtroom. I will be bringing one of perhaps the biggest player that you would like to listen to right here live in the studio. But first and foremost, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, has condemned the rate of work and vandalization of the Abuja Metro Rail project. The minister was on an inspection of the project in Abuja today, where he made some revelations on the lapses of the architectural design of the project, while stating that it is not suitable for the Nigerian populace.
I'm not too happy. So the company must speed up. Those who are doing the access road must also speed up. Here we are standing, but I'm assured that this road will be completed before me.
President Bola Tinubu has approved 683.4 billion naira as a 2024 intervention fund for public tertiary education institutions in the country. The executive secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, Mr. Sonny Echano, made the disclosure at a strategic planning meeting with heads of beneficiary institutions in Abuja. Governor Hyacinth Alea has formally reconciled with the aggrieved State Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress. He made this known when visiting the party secretariat to mend fences with the State Working Committee, where the party chairman, Austin Agada, passed a vote of confidence on the governor, voiding all suspension notices earlier issued.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So let's get started. But before we go, I'm not forgetting there are a lot of questions and controversy about yesterday's question. The answer we gave you was very correct. 35 years is the age, the minimum required age by the Nigerian Constitution, as amended in the Not Too Young to Run bill passed by President Buhari. There are 2 positions that are not tampered with, and those are the Senate and the governorship seat. The president at the time said those 2 positions, the ages are to be left at 35 years. So the age to contest for governor in Nigeria, the minimum age is 35, and that goes also for the Senate. So the presidency, the House of Reps, and the State House of Assembly ages were reduced at the time. But the question of the day, How many local government are there in Nigeria? And the options are there for you. Well, there are a lot of controversies. You remember the Bakassi Peninsula issue, and some local government say they're now falling out. Well, tell me, what is the local government number in Nigeria, and what are the local 774, 360, 450, or 800? Let us know. At the end of the program, we'll be revealing those who have gotten it right. All right. Let's get started with our conversation tonight. The Supreme Court today has delivered judgments in 8 governorship appeals filed before it. It reversed the sack of the governors of Kano and Plateau states, while he affirmed the Supreme Court affirmed the appeal court decisions in Lagos, Cross River, Abia, Ebonyi, and Bauchi states. Meanwhile, we've seen reactions, loads of them, from across the state, jubilations in some part. So these are the faces of those who have benefited from today's judgment. Basically, no one is going on. No new governor has been installed by the apex court. So rest assured, Sanwo-Olu remains the governor of Lagos State. Bala Mohammed remains the governor of Bauchi State. So the Supreme Court has said. Abba Yusuf, governor of Kano State. Dauda Lawal, governor of Zamfara State. Governor Infuru of Francis Ebonyi State. Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau State, Alex Oti of Abia State, and Basi Otu of Cross River State. Those gotten the certificate of affirmation from the Supreme Court, if there is anything like that today. But let's get some reactions and let's show you what has been happening across the state. Let's begin in Kano. Well, the street of Kano was agog. It was almost as though they were watching it live, what was happening in Abuja. This was what it looked like, or what it looked like in Kano, in the street of Kano. Some dangerous display of jubilation and excitement. You can see on the faces of the supporters of the NNPP and Governor Abba Yusuf. And of course, the governor has been reacting to this. He says he's very happy. Take a listen to him.
We believe that justice and fairness will continue to prevail in our courts, especially the highest court, the Supreme Court. I thank all of them, and I wish them best of luck as they continue in their effort to ensure that in all the judgments they make, they ensure that there is free and fair.
That is it for Kano. What about Lagos State? Babajide Sanwo-Olu sat tight, and as soon as he left Abuja and arrived Lagos, he arrived into the warm embrace of members of his cabinet. In fact, he showed some little display of excitement also. I thought I was going to actually dig it deeper, but then that was the much you can see of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, whom, well, it won the contest in the courtroom, on the election field, but I'm not sure how far he can go on the dance stage when it comes to a contest of dance. But well, the Supreme Court says he's the governor. And in Cross River State, let's tell you what happened and the atmosphere in Cross River State, where also Governor Basi Otu of the APC, and he's been affirmed by the Supreme Court. And these are reactions. Governor Basi Otu has arrived on the ground in Calabar, the Cross River State capital. And this was some of the pictures of senators, lawmakers, and members of the APC and give him some kind of warm reception to celebrate the Supreme Court judgment. Of course, on the streets of Jos in Plateau State, jubilation and reactions are trailing the affirmation of the election of Governor Caleb Mutfwang. These are some of the reactions on the streets of Jos. Both the young and the old expressing their excitement. Of course, the very significant green-colored hat representing the supporters of Caleb Mutfwang of the PDP. There you can see jubilation right there. There you go. All right. That is what it looks like. The spirit of excitement and jubilation when you win, when you're on the winning side. But let's get some details on what it really happened. So there are two judgments there that should concern everyone, which, of course, in our electoral jurisprudence, in our elections, you need to take cognizance of this. Why? The Supreme Court judgments are law. They are precedents, and whatever cases that are related to what the Supreme Court rules on, whatever the Supreme Court has ruled on today becomes the template upon which the court are going to rule in these similar cases. So it is important to learn what the Supreme Court has ruled on. But why did I say two cases are significant? These cases are the case in Plateau and Kano State. These governors, their elections were reversed by the appeal court, and they went to the Supreme Court to appeal. It was a very dicey one. They could have lost the appeal at the Supreme Court, but they won today. But the position of the Supreme Court are very significant. And tonight, that's why one of the governors in that case is with us tonight. The governor of Plateau State, Governor Gov Mutfwang, joins us live in our studio. Thank you, Your Excellency, and congratulations on your victory.
Thank you, Sheon. Thank you, Nigeria.
How does it feel?
A huge relief, a huge burden. A huge relief because it has been a torturous process. Having to go through litigation after you have been sworn in is not the best of engagements. Full of uncertainties. And we thank God that finally today it was brought to an end. Because litigation is not a necklace to wear perpetually. It has to come to an end. And we are glad that today it finally came to an end. So in that sense, it breeds a huge relief. But again, seeing the kind of excitement the judgment has generated, it again tells me that you carry a huge burden. And that is a burden not to be taken lightly. And by the grace of God, we'll trust God for his grace to not only carry that burden, but to discharge it effectively.
I imagine that you may have been packing some of your personal effects out of the government house a few weeks ago, because going to the Supreme Court after you've lost at the appeal court, you know one thing could happen. It's either you win or you lose at the Supreme Court. And for any reasonable person who perhaps will be saying, these are important personal affairs, let me take you to my personal home in case anything goes wrong at the Supreme Court. Was that the case at some point?
Sure, that's an interesting one. I can assure you that certainly those thoughts will cross the mind. But as I'm talking to you, my family is still where I have resided since May 29. And I had always believed that the law was on our side, that God has been on our side, that the Supreme Court would do the needful. And therefore, we did not panic. Therefore, we didn't lose confidence in the institution of the judiciary, in the personalities of the justices. And therefore, we managed it better than you think.
Yeah, I imagine that it must have been some kind of pain when you lost at the appeal court, knowing for well that you won on the field in the election, and you perhaps are going to be left, your fate is going to be hanging in the balance and in the hands of just about 7 justices of the Supreme Court to determine whether the victory you got on the field will be affirmed or retained. So in that sense, it was a very dicey one. Your lawyers, they played their role, but 3-4 days ago, when the court now deferred judgment for today, things were looking up, and those who understand the body language of the court might wonder, maybe it might just flow in your direction. But in the final analysis, what would you say is the biggest lesson in this process for you?
Many lessons to learn from this process. I must tell you, there are many conversations that we'll have out of this process. But for me, I think today is a day of glory for justice. It's a day of glory for the judiciary. It's a restoration of hope and confidence in the judiciary for the common man. today their lordships did Nigeria proud because they didn't state any new position of law. I sat through virtually all the judgments. All they needed was to restate the position of the law because a lot of the issues that came up for litigation have been decided upon in a plethora of cases. It was therefore surprising that some of the tribunals missed the application of precedent, and at the Court of Appeal, some of the panels also missed the application of precedent. Our jurisprudence, Sheun, is based on the doctrine of stare decisis. That is judicial precedent, or put another way, judicial discipline. And therefore, once the Supreme Court has, a superior court has stated what the law is, has interpreted what the law is, that interpretation itself becomes law. So it's not expected that a lower court will deviate from what has already been stated as the law, except they can find reasons to differ from existing judgments.
So the Supreme Court on its own can deviate from its own judgment and give reasons. It can actually disagree with its own judgment and deviate if it finds good reasons and there are changes in the processes.
Very well. There is what we call the inherent jurisdiction of the court. And the Supreme Court is called supreme because it's not just a court of law, it's a court of policy. And when it is making a decision, it looks at the totality of the impact of that judgment on society. And so, of course, it tries to follow the rules of interpretation of statutes, so to make sure that the interpretation of the law conforms with the spirit of the law. Because before you enact any law, there is a mischief you intended to cure. And so the Supreme Court is the guardian of the justice system. And today, they executed that role very well.
If it had gone in the other way, what would you have said?
I would have been surprised, but I would have taken it because it's the final court of the law.
What was your plan? What was the alternative plan if you have been sacked finally today?
If I had been sacked, I would take it in good faith.
What were you planning to do afterwards?
I had no plans because I didn't think I was going to be sacked.
So you thought that this is either this or this?
I was confident that the Supreme Court was going to
reverse the Court of Appeal. What gave you that confidence?
Two things. One, God. Two, the law. The law has never been unambiguous. The issues canvassed in my case were anchored basically about the issues of nomination and sponsorship of candidates, which is not within the jurisdiction of tribunals. The other issue had to do with a purported disobedience of a court order, which was a contrived lie that was packaged and sold to the Court of Appeal. And it fell for it because there was no court order that was disobeyed. And today I'm glad that the Supreme Court made appropriate findings that every court order that was given had been obeyed, and that the Court of Appeal strayed beyond the boundaries of its jurisdiction in saying that I was not properly and duly nominated by my party.
So, I mean, in all of this, do you think this, for some reasons, under the Bola Tinubu dispensation, there is some kind of hope in the system, in the climate, about what the judiciary had delivered today?
Yes. In my first interaction with the press, I did make that point. For an African president not to intrude into the political space, we must say kudos to Mr. President.
You think he did not?
I think he did not. If he had used, the Nigerian president is one of the most powerful presidents. And if he decides to use his powers wrongly and intrude into the political arena, he could unsettle a lot of things. But today, I believe, he allowed their lordships to do their work, and they did it according to the dictates of conscience and according to law, and I'm proud of them.
I mean, for those who have lost hope in the judiciary, who thought that the judiciary is being on the market and on the rack for sale, what do you have to say?
That is exactly what the Supreme Court did today, to show that the judiciary justice is not for sale. I wish you were in court, Sherwood, to hear some of the comments of their lordships. First of all, what they said today, a lot of the cases that went wrong, which were corrected today, shows that there's a wake-up call for both the bar and the bench. There are many, many cases that ought not to have gone to court. They were taken to court by lawyers, and I think we need to address that. Maybe there needs to be some penalty for those kind of mischievous cases which are abuse of court process. There must be a sanction. And it is that gives the judges the latitude, the platform, to also be able to misapply the law.
But there are those who will say, Governor Mutfwang, that if it was to be some politicians who really want to wield their political powers using the courtrooms,
yes,
that their party, that a party in power will have taken it all.
Yeah, the political parties also have a role to play. When the political parties don't do their homework and leave loopholes, disobey their own rules of engagement, disobey their own constitutions and guidelines for elections, then they open the window for lawyers and the courts to be able to misbehave. And so it also means that the political parties have to ensure that the processes, their internal processes, are fair and just, and they are very transparent. If not, we'll continue to have this vicious cycle of very laborious litigations, which are very energy-sapping and distracting from the purpose of governance.
I've spoken to quite a few people when this was developing. I remember a conversation I had with someone like Daniel Boala, who had, at the time when he was speaking about it, he sounded unpopular. And I mean, I remember my conversation with a member of the House of Representatives from Plateau State. I mean, quite a few of them, especially about Plateau State.
Yeah.
But for you, this has created a lot of political tension in Plateau State. And if it were not for God, things would have gone really bad. There are those who still think some of the violent activities that we're seeing on the Plateau is also due to political tension created in the aftermath of the appeal court judgment. Now, as a leader of the state, as a #1 citizen, are you willing to extend the olive branch to all and sundry, no matter what political party they belong, to come together and help you build Plateau State? Or you still want to fight on it politically?
There's nothing to fight over, Sheol. Today has brought the judicial process, like I said, to an end. I am the governor of Plateau State, both the good, the bad, and the ugly. And my responsibility is to run the state efficiently for the benefit of all. I can tell you that there are so many benefits that have come out of this perverse judgment at the Court of Appeal. One of it is that it has expanded my knowledge of people and the state. It has expanded my knowledge of the dynamics of Nigerian politics. It has expanded my depth of knowledge about the dynamics of the workings of the judicial system. And I can tell you that what it has done for me is that it has brought out in me some positive energy that we can be able to change the Nigerian system. Today, I've always been an incurable optimist that Nigeria can change. And today, with what I saw in the Supreme Court, it raises that hope further. That if the Supreme Court can get it right, the judicial system will get it right. The administration of justice will get right. It therefore means we can cascade this into other spheres of our national development. I believe that with a lot of the things that are happening now, some of the drastic corrective measures Mr. President is taking means that change is possible.
So you believe in what Bola Tinubu is doing?
Oh, why not?
Have you met with him?
Uh-huh.
Did you discuss your case with him?
Nothing unusual. Of course, he's aware. As the president, he's aware of all.
What was his comment about the matter?
I wish you good luck. I wish you good luck.
He never tried to help.
Well, in what way can he help?
He's the president.
He is the president, but he is not the judge. That's what I said. That's what I'm commending Mr. President for the deliberate decision not to intrude into the judicial space. It takes a great restraint for a good leader to restrain himself when he knows that he has the powers that can be able to distort a system and he says, no, I'm not going to use it, I would rather allow the system to sort out itself. And I think that is good for our country.
One thing that is of concern to a whole lot of people, either they're from Plateau State or not, or they're from the north central region of the country or not, is the insecurity, the security situation in the state. Is almost 200 communities across 3 or 4 local government areas, including Manga, your local government, Bozo local government area. And there are a lot of people who are worried that what has really gone wrong. In fact, there are those who are saying that this is a deliberate act to take over the land because of the people of the state, because of the natural resource they want to get. Because there are those who are of the opinion, the theory is that as soon as they take over, I mean, they chase the people out. Few weeks after, you see the mining of natural resource in that land, not concluded, but these are some of the theories that people have. But in the interim, what comes to your mind? What do you think is at the heart of these very crazy, violent idea of killing innocent people in their beds in the middle of the night and chasing them out of their communities?
Thank you, Sherwood. When a lion tests blood and you don't kill the lion, it is going to go after more humans. And this is what has happened in Plateau and perhaps much of the North Central, where these criminal activities began over 2 decades ago, and they were treated with kid gloves, and they kept snowballing and kept, subdividing. The dynamics kept changing. Today, it is a multifaceted, hydra-headed problem. It will not be far-fetched that there are land-grabbing interests involved in this matter. It will not be far-fetched that we also have criminals who have lost humanity and therefore can be able to shoot a 3-year-old baby, for example, with a gun at close range, and how the baby didn't die only takes God as a miracle worker to have preserved that child. Where you machete a 5-year-old boy for no just cause, it shows a loss of humanity. I'm worried, Sherwood, that it looks like, to some degree, even in Nigeria, our values have been so thoroughly eroded that we've lost our humanity in many respects. And today, we have allowed criminality to thrive. What I can tell you we're dealing with on the Plateau and the attacks in the recent past are pure acts of terrorism. And the earlier we dealt with it as acts of terrorism as a state, not Plateau State, I mean, as a subnational, but as a Nigerian state. We deal with it as an act of terrorism. We will not be able to apply the hammer with the full weight we can bring to bear on this monster. It's a big monster.
Are these known terrorists?
Yes and no.
Are they aliens? Are they non-Nigerians?
I believe that the sponsors of the terrorists, the financiers of the terrorists, that those who arm the terrorists, that they are known. And the security agencies know them. If they don't know them, they have the capacity to know them. And that is why we're insisting that the security agencies must do their work, which is to protect lives and property. And when they recruit unknown persons, when you hear about unknown gunmen, oftentimes a few have been caught, and truly, they don't appear to be from any part of this country.
I mean, I can imagine that as a former local government chairman,
yes,
in Manga, for example, Mangu, sorry,
yeah, right.
You have an idea, a native local intelligence that you get from the people.
Very well, very well.
And when you say that these are terrorists that are being sponsored and these people are capable of being known, you yourself as the chief security officer of the state should have an idea. Who are these people? Can we name to shame them? And the Nigerian people will know the terrorists that are terrorizing our nation? Is it possible?
Well, it's possible, Sherwood. It's a collaborative effort. I do not have the tools of coercion to be able to catch these people,
but do you know
and bring them to book.
Do you know these people?
Even if I do, my duty is to transmit my knowledge to the security agencies, because they have constitutional responsibility to investigate, to arrest, and then Sometimes, of course, when they have done that, I, as governor now, under my Ministry of Justice, we can be able to prosecute in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Justice. So it's a collaborative effort. We must share information and knowledge. Some of the things are very sensitive, and therefore you cannot just spill it out in the media. You must be able to engage the appropriate authorities if it is going to bear the much needed fruit.
But are you thinking of alternative measures yourself? The police and security agencies are not within your control. And you can only give your authority, assert your authority as prescribed by the Constitution, but you do not control them. The police, the IG controls the police. The NSCDC is controlled by their controller and all of that. There are other states in this country that have developed vigilantes, that have developed local security and the watches that will help the security architecture in the state. Are you thinking of this kind of alternatives?
It will interest you to know, Shehu, that Plateau State was the first to be given authority by the then President Goodluck Jonathan to start what today people know as the Amotekun in Southwest. The former Governor Jang started what you call the Operation Rainbow, which politicians mischievously said it was a militia he was building. And unfortunately, that platform of security management was not well utilized in the last 8 years. And we're trying to bring it back. Everything we're doing is in the open. We are trying to, like you said, mobilize the local vigilantes and hunters so that they can defend their communities. But we're doing it very transparently. We're getting the police and the civil defense to give them some trainings so that they can be able to safeguard their communities. If we don't do that, we're going to allow people to resort to self-help, which is dangerous.
Do you think there is a competition for control of natural resources in your state?
Oh, sure. Why not? It's natural, like you said it. Once there are resources, people will be interested in harnessing them. And if you don't do it lawfully, you will do it unlawfully.
And those who are saying that there should be a law to allow some Nigerians to carry arms, to bear arms to defend themselves, do you think, if you see the pain of the people bearing a citizen in your state, do you think for a moment that there's a need for that kind of situation?
Well, sometimes the call is inevitable, but as a governor, I will tell you that you cannot allow arms in the hands of people without some form of regulations. It is necessary to regulate. It is necessary to have some form of control. It is necessary to have a reporting back system so that people do not misuse the license to bear arms. We must be able to balance things at any point in time so that we don't descend into anarchy.
All right. But you are resolute to fight back.
Oh, sure. Our people, I don't have an option. Our people are determined to fight back.
So we no go green situation right now.
Yeah, we have. If the option is that if you are pushed to the wall, it's either they kill you, or you push back. There are no two ways about
it. The
people
people of Plateau say that resolute that
they
will not stand aloof and being killed by.
No, certainly the people of Plateau, their spirits are not broken, of even despite the attacks that they have come under, and I can assure you, because of the confidence they have in people like us, and the confidence, therefore, they can have in government, they are waiting to see what government can do. But we are assuring them that government will not fail them, so that they do not take laws into their hands.
On the final note, Governor, there are a lot of casualties, those whose fate were determined by the Court of Appeal, federal lawmakers, and all what have you. Well, how do you feel for them right now?
Very sad, very sad. Let me tell you, Shehu, that happening at that level of our judicial system not only caused pain, it caused death. And today, the plans and projections many people had for 4 years have been truncated. And so a lot of dysfunction has come into the system. But today, Shehu, all I want to do is like the day a 4th division team in FA defeated a Man City football club. And therefore, I want to savor the joy of today. And we will then be able to think of what the remedy will be.
There are those who are thinking that you are moving to the APC. Is that true?
Move to the APC?
Yeah.
I have never discussed that with anybody.
You have never considered that?
It's not in consideration at the moment. Why should I?
But you are willing to work with Bola Tinubu at the
He's the president of the country.
All right.
He's the president of the
Governor
country.
Gov Mutfwang, congratulations again. I guess it's an order for your victory today at the Supreme Court, and I wish you well in the governance of Plateau State.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you, Sheun.
I appreciate it.
Once again, thank you, Nigerians, for your support, for your prayers, for your love. We truly appreciate it, and we will repay the confidence that the people have reposed in us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We take a break, and when we return, I'll take you through a journey of analyzing what exactly went wrong in Kano, what went wrong in Plateau, and in some of the states. I've got a very experienced person to give you into all of what is really happening, because you need to know the law, the judgment, and the future of our elections. We'll be right back, everyone. So President Bola Tinubu has asked governors elected on the platform of the APC to design and implement policies that will prioritize all Nigerians and to always consider the national interest above political affiliations. The president met with governors of the APC today at the presidential villa in what looked like a strategy session between the president and the governors of the APC. But let's get into our conversations of our major story tonight, which is, of course, the outcome of the Supreme Court judgment. What really happened? What are the lessons for our elections and our electoral jurisprudence? It means a lot for those who know, for lawyers and even for non-lawyers, politicians, and those who are interested in politics. There is a significant lesson for our elections, and I'd like you to listen. That's why, out of inconvenience, I had to bring this man, because he's one person. Himself is a lot of knowledge of election and the law. He's Mr. Oluwole Osanzi, who's a very senior lawyer. He headed the legal and the publicity department at INEC. He's the Attorney General of Edo State. He joins us live on the program tonight. It's good to see you tonight.
Thank you so pleasure. Much indeed. Thank you for having me.
When I have difficult moments, I don't think of two people but you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you tonight. But what a day it is for those who know. And what do you think? What do you make of today as the Supreme Court sat on those 8 cases today?
Well, I think that it's a very positive day, very good outcome. And from your reports and everything else, there's been a lot of celebration in a sense, not celebrating because people won, but because the Supreme Court followed precedents. It followed its previous decisions by and large in all these cases. Recall that after the decision in the presidential election, a lot of angst was directed in the given direction of the Supreme Court. A lot of people were dissatisfied. That deep-set division, mistrust in the judiciary, whether that decision was right or wrong, people had set notions of how it should go. I think this is a redemption of sorts for the Supreme Court. And both on my platforms, on different platforms, legal platforms, technical platforms, I think the discourse has been, well, this is a good thing. This harkens back to the precedents already set, that there are parameters for upsetting an election. Court of Appeal was wrong in so many ways when it upset some of those elections. It was correct when it upheld things like Lagos, Zamfara, Lagos and Bauchi, but wrong in its approach to Plateau and Kano states. Yes, clearly wrong, and harking back that the tribunals were correct and they followed the correct precedents. But the Court of Appeal deviated from that precedence, so their findings were perverse. Their decisions were perverse and had to be upturned by the Supreme Court.
You will see the Supreme Court today called out one of their own, who is now being elevated to the apex court, yes. One of those who sat out on the appeal.
Yes.
It tells you how brutal some of the judgments is today. And I like us to dive straight into it. I mean, you said it looks like the Supreme Court sort of redeemed the image of the judiciary in some sense. And that means a lot, isn't it? For those who say, oh, the judges or the judiciary has been on sale, that angered some of the judges at the Court of Appeal, and the presidential election petition. But let's look at the Kano governorship appeal. I want us to start from there and analyze and dissect it. Yes. What are the facts of the matter, everyone? Let's take a look at it. Because I like Mr. Oluwole Osazuzi to take us to the law classroom tonight and give us a sense of what this means. The Kano case, the facts of the matter, whether the lower court was right in deducting 165,606 from the votes the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC announced for the governor, and whether the lower court could determine the issue of party membership. That is one of the facts of the case. The second one is whether Abba Yusuf was a member of the New Nigeria People's Party and NPP as of the time he contested the poll, and the issue of nomination and sponsorship of it is a pre-election matter, and if it is within the jurisdiction of the court. Interesting matters. Indeed. So the first one, deducting the votes, 165,000, which the Supreme Court said, return it.
Yes. Basically, I think the Section 71 of the Electoral Act says that on receipt of the ballot papers, the Commission, INEC, should give ballot papers in booklet form to the presiding officers. When they receive those, before they issue it, they have to sign and stamp it. That is to authenticate those ballot papers to ensure that you don't smuggle other ballot papers in. You don't print your own ballot papers or obtain your ballot papers from elsewhere and smuggle them in. So that is the requirement of the Electoral Act. And according to the Court of Appeal, there are 165,500 and something thousand were not duly stamped and signed. As a result of that, they said those ballots, those votes were invalid and deducted that. And by the time they recomputed, they now said, sorry, the APC candidate was the winner of the election, not the NNPP candidate. Well, the Supreme Court said, no, it's okay. Yes, there's an infraction. And by the way, that's also part of the INEC guidelines. There's an infraction in the sense that perhaps these things were not stamped and signed by the presiding officers to authenticate them. But did they come from the booklet? Did they contain the logos? Did they contain the stamps? Did they contain all the watermarks and every other security device of the commission? They said, yes, well, they did. The petitioners did not show that these things did not come from particular booklets. So they didn't audit the thing. They didn't bring sufficient evidence to the tribunal to show that these ballots were smuggled in or did not come from the source of those booklets. So the Supreme Court said, having failed to prove that, you cannot invalidate those votes. And as such, those votes must be added to the NNPP candidates. And that's why when you add that, he was rightly returned as having won the election.
What do you think is significant? Because Edo and Ondo elections are coming.
Yes.
And the guidelines of INEC and the Electoral Act, there's a lot of contestation of the guiding of the guidelines of INEC and how substantial it could be in determining this kind of situation.
Yes, but first of all, in the hierarchy of laws, as I've often said on this program, you know that the guidelines are subservient to the Electoral Act in the same sense that the Electoral Act is subservient to the Constitution. So in the hierarchy of laws, the Constitution comes first, then you have laws made by the National Assembly, and then you have regulations and guidelines which may be considered to be bylaws. So that's the hierarchy. And the elections are conducted on this tripod. If there's any conflict between the Electoral Act and the Constitution, the Electoral Act has to give way. In the same way, if there's any conflict between the regulations and the Electoral Act, the regulations must give way. So these are requirements of the Electoral Act. It is only where the Electoral Act has not given sufficient guidance that you rely on the regulations of the Commission. So that is what happened now. And as it is, don't forget that in the elections of 2007, ballot papers were not serialized because of the hurry, because of the, remember Atiku took INEC to court and INEC lost the case to Atiku and they went to reprint the ballot papers for the presidential election. So as a result of that, because of the limited time, they could not serialize the ballot papers. But the Supreme Court, by majority, said, look, even though it's contrary to the Electoral Act not to have serialized those ballot papers, you didn't show how that affected the election. That in itself did not void the election. So this harkens to that. This is akin to what has happened to the 2007 cases where Atiku Abubakar against INEC and Yaradua in those line of cases. So it's not every infraction, technical infraction of the Electoral Act that will lead to an upturning of an election. That reinforces that principle which has been long established.
And the other one, whether Yusuf Abba was a member of the NNPP at the time he contested, and the issue of nomination and sponsorship of it, if it's a pre-election matter and if it is within the jurisdiction of the court.
Yes, I don't think they went to the second question whether he was or he was not a member. But because they determined on the threshold issue that is not a matter for the tribunal, whether it's a member of the court, and in any case, someone from another party cannot go to challenge membership of another party. The party has said is a member, so they're satisfied with that. A lot of cases previously, people tried to say, look, I'm my own party, but I can challenge your primaries of the other party. Recall the Mama Taraba case. We came to the studio and discussed that, and the initial judgment was in her favor in 2015. Yeah. And the Supreme Court said, no, that's not so. You're in one party, you're a voyeur, you're a medicinal interloper when you go to do that. If the law was such that you could challenge, that's a different thing. But they tried to draw a distinction to say this is an issue of qualification. Because it's an issue of qualification, you must belong to a political party to be qualified. You must belong to a political party and you must be sponsored by that party. So you have to show or prove that you belong to that party and are sponsored by that party. They tendered the documents from INEC to show that his membership card was there and that the necessary forms were filled by the party. That was sufficient sponsorship.
I mean, these are also issues that political parties need to start fixing. You see, if some of these issues are fixed by the political parties, there is no need for contesting this in the courtroom. And this brings me to the fact of the matter in Plateau State, which is a big lesson. And for those who, you remember that I had you on the program before when the Electoral Act was passed, and I said, look, the political parties need to sit down with legal minds to analyze, and they made a lot of mistakes. My warning, if you remember vividly, and I warned that there are a lot of provisions in the Electoral Act of 2022. If the political parties were not careful, they will fall short of some of this, and they did.
Correct.
And this is some of the things that happened. In the Plateau State, let's look at the facts of the matter and what the court decided today. And there is a schooling of the lower court by the Supreme Court. And there is one the bar and the bench about some of the manner in which they should go. Look at the facts of the matter in the case of Plateau. Whether the validity of nomination and is another matter here. Similar to Kano. Of nomination and sponsorship is a valid ground to void an election. Secondly, whether the order of the Plateau State High Court can affect the National Executive Committee neck of the party.
Yes, issue of nomination again. Is it an issue, a live issue in the tribunal? Is that a ground for nullifying an election? And the Supreme Court said no, it's not. As you rightly said, school the lower court, and added lawyers in the sense that look, I think it's a forewarning to what might come. Be careful, advise your clients properly. And especially for matters that have become recondite, matters that we have decided and severally on, that look, this is a guide to everybody and we're all bound to obey decisions of the Supreme Court. The issue of validity of a nomination of a candidate is an internal matter of the political parties, and nobody outside of the political parties, in fact, to challenge that, you have to do it as a pre-election issue, and it has to come from somebody who participated in the primaries. So if you did not participate in the primaries, you have no locus to also bring any action challenging that nomination. So unfortunately, the Court of Appeal misled itself, and that's what therefore erred and got to a perverse judgment because it took those things into consideration and allowed those people when there was absolutely no jurisdiction, and that's the word used by the Supreme Court. It had no jurisdiction to consider those issues.
Absolutely.
It's out of sight.
I mean, it's interesting that some of the lessons coming out of the Supreme Court today, errors are going to mark it. Today is the 12th day of January. In Odo and Edo, political parties are going to make similar errors. And you will see, find it out. Because these are technical issues. that political parties are not very detailed in addressing these technicalities and these gray areas.
Yes, unfortunately. But you know that all the political parties have legal advisors. They have legal advisors at state level, and they have legal advisors at national level. And some of them are accomplished lawyers. Maybe politics has blinded their eyes to the law. I don't think so, but I wonder why they get into that. And maybe sometimes the leadership are not listening to the lawyers. And each of the major political parties has a retinue of senior advocates, senior lawyers, who are their beck and call. And some of them are making mistakes that have been made previously. Now, let me take a number, for example. That's not in contention here. Right from 1999, many cases have come as to nomination. Proper parties have come before each election cycle. You've had that. We will go, for example, the Uba cases, the Valentine Ozigbo cases. Right from 1990, each election cycle, you have had that issue. But each time it seems that we fall into the same trap.
If there are legal issues, trust me, in a state where almost every household has a lawyer in Anambra State, and everybody is almost a lawyer, similar to Edo State, Delta, and the rest, where lawyers are very rampant. But this is how I like us to anchor.
Yes.
There is a lot of lesson from what the judgment of courts today, and I've identified ones that I think are very significant. But to the electoral law, the electoral law of 2022,
yes,
what do you think the Supreme Court spoke to in this electoral law today that we need to have our mind to?
Well, when the dust settles, not just today's judgments, but we'll have to sit down, look at the presidential election judgments. Were we emotive? Was the Supreme Court right? Was it wrong? Did it follow its established precedents? A lot of issues arise. Then look at the judgments of today. Is there any deviation from previous judgments? Are there new things that we should be very, very careful about? More from the presidential, actually, this issue of transmission of results, collation of results. Those were not live issues today. Those are actually novel issues, because those were issues that were not in previous electoral acts. Not in the 2006, not in 2010, but definitely in 2022. But this issue of nomination, non-nomination, there are slight differences, for example, as to who can. But 2010 and 20, on the issues of nomination of candidates, on the issues of what are within the domestic jurisdictions, nothing too much happened today. But there are some other judgments. The most important thing today is that maybe some other judgments have been delivered on, let's take Plateau State, for example. You asked His Excellency a few minutes ago that what will happen, how does he feel about those things? That we have to address issues like that. What happens where a lower court, but the final court, gets it so wrong? And the words used are perverse, where, they're void, they had no jurisdiction. If you now juxtapose that with the decisions in the National Assembly and State Assembly elections, talking about the issue of nomination, the issue of whether the party flouted the court order or not. Now you have to feel for those people and angst, and don't be surprised if some want to test the waters and go back to the Court of Appeal or go back to courts and say, in view of the Supreme Court judgment in the governorship, it shows you clearly the Court of Appeal is clearly wrong. Do you want to revisit that? Can they revisit that? These are certainly issues that will engage us for quite a while to come, I guess.
Mr. Oluwole Osaze-Ozie, thank you so much. It was such an instructive day it is being for legal of electoral jurisprudence. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you
for giving us this insight. Thank you so much indeed. But before we go, let's see how many people got it right. The question of the day: how many local government areas are there in Nigeria? For those who do not know, the correct answer is roll the drums, everyone. Is it 774, 360, 450, or 800? The correct answer, everyone, is A, 774. Now you know. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And that's our show for this week. I'll see you again on Sunday, God willing. I'm Shuwa Kimale. Bye-bye.